Hey folks, this is Tolly and welcome to a dev stream. It has been a minute. Should be live, I believe, in places. YouTube's a little weird, but I think we're good there, and we should be okay on Twitch as well. Let me know if audio levels or anything is off. I see a couple of lurkers. Okay, let's get started. So we're going to be streaming for a couple hours. It's been a minute. Forgive me if I'm rusty, but in fact, I think I was looking at it earlier, and I believe we're almost at 2 years since the last stream. We did some stuff, some recorded videos for Wild Frost like a year and a half ago, but still streaming, it's been a while. Let's bring that down a little bit, it feels like. Okay, and then I think we're gonna jump in with this. Yeah, so where to start? It's been a busy couple of years. Been focused on this thing on screen now. Me and Drixie have been working continuously on our idle project. We've kind of moved away from the original pitch, which I'm going to kind of go through some history at the start of the stream here, kind of showing the progress from where we've been to where we're kind of heading, and how we kind of shifted gears and kind of to a different game essentially for the time being, trying to build something with a smaller scope. Amorphous in chat saying, I don't know if it's because of data or if it's something on my end, but a lot of buffering on the stream. That's good to know. Bitrate looks okay. That seems stable. Connection seems good. So I'm going to guess it's on your end, but let's all keep an eye, I guess, and see if that does continue to be a problem for everyone. Because, yeah, Twitch is saying it's fine. Okay, cool. Yeah, we're going to kind of run through the history of where we've been for the past 2 years, as well as some of the stuff we've done in the past, kind of giving some context to where we are with the indie project. Is kind of the main thing I want to talk about. There aren't really any major games that I want to be playing right now, so I feel like just kind of showing some of the stuff off is really what I'm looking to do. And just kind of get back into streaming again. I feel like I've been struggling a little bit to keep on focus with like game dev stuff, and I feel like the streams, even if I was just kind of like rambling to myself as I coded, helped me focus. So we're going to try and bring these back a little bit, especially coming up in December because I've got a bit of time off, so we're going to have quite a bit of downtime to try and fit some streams in. I don't know how to intro this, but one other thing that we have done is Drixie spent a bit of time this weekend when I decided that I wanted to come back to YouTube, building me a PNG tuber, a more simplified VTuber avatar. So we're gonna flip that on. This is me. Now I'm in the corner. That's fun. Yeah, I got this thing now, and I think this helps with the like chatter stuff, especially when we're rambling through problems. Maybe one day we'll upgrade it to a full VTuber, but for the time being, this PNG tuber seems cool. Okay, I'm gonna jump into it. I guess the only other things I want to mention is kind of just some generic life stuff for the past 2 years. Drixie's still around. In fact, the big news there is that me and Drixie did get married in the past 2 years, so I guess Miss Tolhy now. I don't know, whatever. And then we've also moved a bit, so this stream setup is also in a new location from where I was previously doing content. So we will see if there's any kind of echo or bounce or anything weird in the videos as well. So we're gonna pause this background music, and we're gonna open up a folder, and we're gonna take a look at some of the history of where we've been. So when we were streaming last, this might be a little before I stopped streaming it, dev-wise. We're going to bring the audio down too. So this was like the JRPG, and eventually came to be known as like the Era of Embers, which is a name we'd still like to use for it eventually, and we'd like to return to this project at a later point, but this pitch was meant to be like a full-scale, like massive RPG experience. something akin to a like Final Fantasy, and that scope was just like a little too large for like a first game. As much as I was enjoying building out all the systems and like getting a lot of this stuff functional, and we made a lot of progress, honestly, towards having like the whole system operational, it just, the amount of content that we were going to need to finish this was going to be too much. So we wanted to try and bring it down a level and try and do something in a bit of a smaller scope. But yeah, so this is where this was at. If we take a look at here, we had also done some like further advanced stuff on like the AI tracking and stuff. I'm not sure if any of that was like recorded. I'm not sure where we last left off. I think if I remember correctly, the last live video we had done was for like perspective camera stuff that we were playing with. So like this stuff may have been on stream and I'm just not remembering fully, but I still wanted to kind of start here as like a bit of a context of like, you know, we wanted to do a bit of a dungeon crawler. We want to do like full worlds and like exploring entire environments. But like, it's important to note, like a lot of this stuff is like still the basis of what we're moving forward with the new stuff, the new title development. And we're like trying to build off of this architecture and with the intent that everything we build could be used to bring back to this system as well. We'd like to keep this as like the eventual goal to come back to a full kind of more long form travel log type JRPG in the future. And like we liked this kind of pixel combat system. This was feeling pretty good. We had kind of moved to like this perspective camera, which I think this was literally the last stream. Was kind of just showing off some of this progression to like doing more of a 3D environment with billboards. And a lot of this led into like where we went next. I think this one here, yeah, it's just a more textured version of the environment. So again, what we were just showing a moment ago, but now with a little bit more art. Spent a long time building like modeling kind of exporting software so that we could like bring the level into like Blender and then like export the entire environment as like one mesh to reduce like poly counts and stuff. But this ended up, you know, kind of being kind of where we left this. This is like the final steps where Erebember kind of stayed before we shifted gears. So we've kind of moved on to this other project, which is supposed to be smaller scope, but I'm real bad about kind of building up scope creep over time. So I don't know. This may end up being big, but it'll never be as big as Erebember's, I don't think. Because that first version was really meant to be a colossal game. So let's move forward. So one of the things I want to see was this is kind of where we started moving towards. We started moving towards like kind of tile-based movements. A lot of the stuff we were showing before was a lot of like free roam physics with a lot of, I don't want to say sliding, but it was definitely more difficult to control. But I started to wanting to move towards something that was more tile-based because it would limit the gameplay in order to try and reduce the scope. It meant that I had to build a tile movement system, which definitely was more work. But I think in the long term, it will make things simpler. We also looked at using some art assets to kind of build out like some like Unity Asset Store to try and like figure out the abilities. Amorphous with the 10 gifted subs. I appreciate you very much, especially considering you're saying you're having trouble watching the stream. And there's not a whole lot of people actually here. So I'm curious, I guess that's just going backwards to the last few people who checked in on the channel. So you may have just pinged a bunch of people. Let's play this again. So here we're kind of trying to show off the, we're trying to show off like the ability stuff. So I had spent a long time trying to build out a system that was like really elaborate to allow for like really complicated like combinations of like skill usage. So here we have like a couple of different abilities, and the abilities are actually based off the weapon you have in this prototype. This prototype was trying to test out this idea of like, well, what if the enemies dropped weapons? And there's a little bit of this idea of like weapon durability that we were kind of playing with as well. And each of the different abilities would like kind of decide like your play style a little bit. And so this was meant to be more of a like fast-paced experience, like tile-based movement, but we were trying to nail something that was like very like, how do I plan out dealing with a whole bunch of enemies all coming to surround me at the same time? And this worked, as you can see, for the most part with melee enemies, but as soon as you get into a lot more of the like ranged combatants, it's this prototype started to fall apart. Let's move on. So after this, I think we got two more. We got two more subscriber notifications, and we will be good. Okay, that should be the last one. How do I segue into this? So when this was working, but it was like kind of like, honestly, the big inspiration here, which it like was that I saw that Etrian Odyssey HD, which is a game from like I think the GBA era, but like there was a Steam release kind of remaster rebuild of it, and I played through that, and I really enjoyed like the dungeon crawl experience. And I realized I have all of these tile pieces that exist in the world as like, you know, each of these squared off pixel areas are a like tile essentially. And I got to thinking like, what if I did something like a dungeon crawl where each of these tiles could be revealed? And Etrian Odyssey has the system of like building out the map. I think that's like a big part of that, was like the ability to on the DS draw out the map and, you know, build out that experience. And I really loved that. And I was like, well, what if we took some of that and tried to work with it? So I was like, okay, well, what if I made each of these tiles like a block that could like come up, and like this was like a very first prototype of that idea. You can see like the room is still the same, but just trying, and I think I was manually controlling this in Unity, just like, what does it feel like if this thing just like slides up into place? And from there we moved into like more of like, okay, what if we had the character like moving, and every time they moved, they almost have like a sight radius that is like revealing the world around them. And this worked okay. This kind of changed the experience though. So we still have a lot of these like abilities like jump and charge, and a lot of these different like effects that can like be really interesting to play with, and like the ability to pick up weapons, which change your abilities. And again, that's what I'm kind of showing off here in this video. But like I ran into like this weird problem where like having all of these really cool abilities that I had built a system for in like large rooms didn't really make sense when we were revealing one tile at a time. And that sounds obvious, but the ability system was really built in like this space. And like with all of this tile based movement and like manipulating enemies and adding status effects in like kind of a cluttered kind of combat system. And then like moving then to the tile stuff as like an inspiration of like, oh, I've got this idea. This could be so cool. Like it just, it didn't occur to me that the ability stuff wouldn't work here. And that's not to say that the ability system is not still great. It's just a little more clunky, and doesn't really feel like it fits the same way. So we kind of moved away from that. Now this is a version in which Drixie was working on this goddess character that was meant to be kind of like the idea behind this smaller scope game, which I don't think I said the title, but it was on the front of the banner for a while we were kind of loading in here, is like infinite retries to defeat the demon lord. And it's like, what if you took like the idea of like an isekai anime and you turned it into a video game, a little bit of the snake eating its own tail. So like you are the hero summoned to this world to defeat the demon lord. And it's kind of got a bit of a roguelike thing, but also kind of a bit of a Majora's Mask thing. Honestly, that hasn't fully settled, but there's some neat systems and some neat mechanics that I've still been prototyping with, that I'm liking. So in this version here, this is the goddess's avatar that Drixie's been working on. And so like we had that before we had our like hero character. But in this, so that's the explanation of the avatar. We've also got these like void bat characters, which I think are pretty neat. But the other big thing here is we've kind of moved towards this like attack, shove, heavy kind of system, and tried to move towards like more of a like individual combat where you're dealing with one enemy at a time. So it's about like managing your like resources a little bit to try and like put the enemy in the right spot, and like deal with them without like running out of resources, primarily in the form of like a timer in the left. There's again almost a little bit of 30-second hero is maybe a comparison I've heard people make, but it's not quite that. It's more like a resource management where it's like you're running out of time on each run, and every action and every attack is a second or a minute. I'm still not sure how I want to differentiate this clock. A lot of people see it as minutes and seconds, which I think is fair. My original intent was like hours and minutes, but with the UI the size it is, I think we'd need to add the seconds to kind of denote that. Anyways, that's a later problem. But regardless of the actual scale of the units, I've been really liking this kind of like, tighter kind of combat experience. So this has felt pretty good too. So this is kind of a progression of that. What do we got up next? I guess I didn't really talk about it, but there was a lot of time spent over the past like 2 years trying to get the pixel stuff working correctly. Because I'm streaming a recorded video and it's going over like a stream, I don't know if the pixel precision is coming across on stream, but we spent a fair amount of time like really trying to nail in like making it sure that every single pixel was rendering exactly as it should, so that like there was no squishing or changing. So this is like a cube that I made that is like every single row is a different color, and like making sure that every single one of those colors was perfectly repeating without any squishing or squashing, because these cubes are 3D. So it's maybe not coming across well in the video, but that's how we're doing this slide up effect. Is we're not actually doing sprites, we're actually doing 3D geometry, where I'm kind of doing a bit of magic through some manipulation in order to get it to like look like it's pixel perfect, when in reality these are all like 3D objects that are moving around but just kind of snapping to a pixel grid in 3 dimensions. It's hard to explain, but that was a big thing that we spent a fair amount of time on, was just like getting that to feel right. What else we got here for screenshots? We've got, this is some earlier stuff. We've kind of already shown some more Expanse stuff. Again, some earlier stuff showing off like the targeting systems that we eventually went towards. This is kind of, again, a little bit earlier than that previous bat scene we were looking at, where we were kind of playing with like what would geometry look like, just kind of bringing in like a bridge asset and seeing if that would work okay. Ended up moving away from that. This is interesting. So in order to try and get that pixel precision, in order to make the environment feel right, we ended up having to basically map the entire like floor across all 20 by 20 grids of a room, via one texture. And so like this is really testing to be like, hey, if I throw in a gradient, are we seeing that gradient rendering across properly? And we can dig into that when we get into the engine a little bit more, which I think we're at. So this is kind of just a trip down memory lane. Again, we can see some of the stuff like this is, oh, I guess all of these dates are, is that right? 2024. I guess that's earlier this year. I don't know. Yeah, probably the third one. I don't know. This date scheme is weird to me. But anyways, there's some like times on these, so you can kind of see a bit of the progression through that as well. So yeah, so we got these videos. Let's jump into the actual engine. I just want to double check, because Amorphous was saying that there was issues with the stream, but again, I'm still seeing excellent on everything, so I think we're still fine. So we're going to keep moving forward. All right, let's jump into the actual engine. So this is jumping out of the past and looking at where we currently are. Let's drop this back down. All right, that's muted. Let's unmute the audio so we have some background noise as we play through this and we get to hear some sound effects. Some of this is still a bit placeholdery. I've gotten some new sound effects that I want to use, but some of it's hasn't all been implemented yet. But so here we're kind of at the infinite retries to defeat the Demon Lord screen. We're going to hit new game. We're going to go through essentially the core loop that I've been building towards. I'm not hearing that audio. There we go. So we've got like an intro cutscene here, essentially that standard isekai moment of like the hero meeting the goddess. We've got some like VO that I've pulled from the Unity Asset Store, which I think is working okay, but I might want to find some better. It's not meant to be like actual like voice lines, but just to kind of give a little bit of like indication of speech through just like sound effects that are very generic. So again, some kind of placeholdery dialogue I want to refine later, but like again, kind of getting this idea across of like, where am I? It's like, I don't have time to fully explain. I need to send you down to my world before I'm too weak. Again, there's some spelling errors with two heroes with the, your world, are you a goddess? Am I about to be reborn? I'll explain on your return, but for now, just keep moving forward. Go, hero, let your journey begin. And then we slide down out of the world. We kind of fall from I guess the goddess's realm is what we've been referring to that space as. Then we have this lightning strike, and then hero, no longer in wisp kind of ghost form, but in full form, is now in the world. And this is kind of a little more advanced in this space than what we were showing in even the videos here. We've got the hero model compared to the goddess we were showing in that video a moment ago. And we're kind of showing a little bit of the billboarding. I'm going to switch over to the scene and kind of just walk a little bit through how this is actually set up. So this is fully laid out in 3 dimensions. There's a bit of magic happening with the UI and stuff over there, as well as some pixel snapping. But this is all happening in a way that, like, this is, if we bring it full screen, I guess that is as big as we're going to get at this scale, but this thing here is like pretty pixel perfect. At least as close as I can get. So each of these pixels is exactly 1 dot, and it maps exactly to Drixie's art. So when Drixie makes a piece of grass on the floor, or builds out a tree, or these bushes, or any of these other pieces, these things will map exactly to the sprite that Drixie makes in A Sprite. So that's pretty cool. Pretty happy with the way that's come together. There is some snapping going on with some of the animation stuff. There's still bugs. This is still very much in kind of a prototypey, or at least early vertical slice kind of stage, but I'm hoping to get closer to content. This is some environments that I've been building out for like the next space. The floors haven't been done here by Drixie yet, but we're gonna obviously replace the white floor with eventually a similar kind of colored effect with a fully drawn in floor. I'm going to fight this bat, and then we're going to just backtrack a little bit because I want to just kind of show off a little bit of this like transition between spaces. One of the things that I was finding really difficult when we were working on the kind of full JRPG experience was that, like, when I was showing those videos of like walking around like free physics, no longer on tiles, it was like pixels start to look a little weird when the when you move, basically. It was like I was keeping pixel precision, but as the camera would move, there'd be like this almost motion blur that would happen with the eye, and really had a hard time solving that. And so moving with this one again, trying to reduce the scope a little bit, went towards more of this like room style, like a Zelda, or you know, a game that has like more of this idea of like you're moving through spaces rather than necessarily the camera following the character. This has worked fairly well, and I think that my only concern with this is still making sure that this part is snappy enough that I never feel like I'm having to wait too long for a room to load. I think this is okay, but I still expect when I get like a build that with like playtests that like we may see feedback that this is too slow, especially when we get into the looping experience. So, which I'll explain in a moment. So yeah, we've got this bat back. I'd like to work on eventually getting it so the bats only appear again after you start a new run, and they remain, defeated until then. So if we would have went back and forth, I'd like it so that that bat doesn't restart or rebuild. And so we're kind of just wandering around kind of this forest area here, kind of exploring and seeing what's what's on the other side, what is around. So we have some hidden interacts. I don't know if this does anything right now. I'm not gonna risk it. But we've got some other things kind of in space, and we've run out of time on the clock. And so once we run out of time, we kind of get to this like end of run screen where we gain some experience, we gain some skill points, and then when we hit A and move forward on this, we come back to the goddess realm in our spirit form. And the narrative kind of trope here is a little bit of like, honestly, I'm still trying to figure part of it out, but the general idea is I'm thinking that like the goddess can only maintain your like existence in the world for so long before the demon lord pushes you out, and then you come back here and you can start another run. We want to try and have this kind of like skill point system. This goddess realm area may go through iterations, but we've been playing around with like this kind of scrying pool where we might go into our skill screen. That's kind of the latest thing I've been working on that isn't fully finished at this stage. But I'd like to try and see if we can do something similar to what we had for the JRPG. Again, we had shown that in like, I think the very first video. So if we just mute here, I just want to go back to this. So if we look back here at this one and we skip forward to... It was literally the first thing. So in here, we kind of go into each skill, and each skill has its own skill tree, essentially, that you can go through and unlock new abilities, which some of these are increasing your stat points, and then other ones are unlocking new abilities, which once you have new abilities, you can go into that ability and unlock its skills tree, which will unlock more abilities. And like, I still really like that progression system. It's something I haven't really seen anyone else doing, and I'm kind of super excited to see if like I can pull something off there. There's maybe a reason it's never been done before, but I'm still excited to... Nope, not that one. This audio here. I'm still excited to try. So we've got kind of a skill screen that I have working from the previous versions, but I want to build back up again in this infinite retries kind of engine. So, okay, moving on. That's kind of the next step, is getting that skill screen appearing and spending that skill point I got, gain some stats, gain some new abilities, and then this is a kind of like an entrance back into the world, and then you come back in and tiles remain revealed. So all the enemies I'm expecting, we'll see again with design iteration, but my expectation here is that we will have the enemies respawning and the world rebuilding, but the tiles revealed remain. It's kind of this knowledge is power kind of trope, where like the more you explore, that knowledge helps you. So before, I only got to about here with like my 2 minutes or 2 hours, depending on how you want to think about it. And now I'm able to get back here with like less time lost, because I'm not going to need to explore as much. Known issue, the health bars are disappearing off of the bats after kind of completing a run. I need to look into that. It's been pretty minor priority for me, but I know that like I've explored some of that area. I could go finish exploring that area on the left and kind of go down, and maybe we do that. Maybe we start by doing that. So we'll come over here. We're going to punch this bat. Should only take a few hits. Heavy, light. Yeah. And then we're going to head down this way. And this area here would be a different entrance, but I've only kind of built out 3 kind of rooms right now. So we'd have to backtrack a little bit right now in order to actually see more progress. But the idea is that like as you go through runs, it will be faster. So another way to think about this is it's kind of like a roguelike, but without procedurally generated worlds. But it's more about trying to progress further in a hand-built world. Again, not something I've seen a lot of people do before. It's probably a reason for that. And like I can think of some design problems with this idea. But I still kind of want to see if I can make it work. It's an interesting constraint and problem to work through. Yeah, and so then we'd spend some more skill points, and then we'd go do another run. And again, we gained some more knowledge last time. We know that that first room, I guess for this version, because I don't actually have an exit on that side, is a dead end. Eventually, this will be a split that lets you go in two different directions. And even if I wanted to, I could sacrifice a bit of health here and like try and just evade this bat, because every attack is an action point. So even though I took a bit of damage there, I'm able to like get further by not having fought him. And so I kind of like some of those decision points. Also, as you reveal more of the world, you may have noticed the bats all spawn in. And that kind of changes the dynamic a little bit of the combat. It's kind of a bit of an emergent gameplay behavior that I found. I think this crashes right now if we try and walk through here, because I did set up the teleport, but there isn't another room here, so it's failing to find the next space. But yeah, so there's a bit of an emergent gameplay where like if I load into a space and the bats are all there, they're all going to fight me, which I think is kind of interesting, because it means that on initial runs, a lot of the combat's very close, a lot of like revealing a tile and there's an enemy right in your face. But on later runs, the gameplay changes to be more about like dealing with enemies at distance because they're already revealed. And I think I want to try and see if I can do some sort of like ability swapping per run, so that you might take a different set of abilities depending on whether or not you're trying to traverse through an area you've already been through or exploring new areas. One part of like solving the issue of, how do I get through an area that I've already been to? Like, how do I make it so I'm not having to start from that same room every single time? Is I like this idea that like when we enter into a space with like these statues here, that, oh, did I have this room set to auto reveal the whole thing from the beginning? I think I had that debug still turned on. Yeah, I still had debug turn on all, spawn all. So this one was supposed to be empty and you slowly reveal it as well. But anyways, the point is that I want to have like areas where you'll find these goddess statues, and those will become checkpoints. So when you start a new run, you'll be able to say, do I want to start at the beginning or do I want to start midway through? And I don't want to get too deep into it, but there will be reasons for revisiting old areas and going back to previous checkpoints. But yeah, this is kind of a smaller scope experience. We're unlike Era of Embers, which had like multiple like kind of pet characters and huge parties of like, a lot of ability swapping and kind of a, I was trying to build a system around like ability usage and ability consumption, so that like one ability would generate an element and another ability would consume that element to be more powerful. But like, this is a lot more like you have one character, you're moving through the space, you're doing your thing. Let's try this now. Yeah, that broke. Okay, that's what I was afraid of. So some of the discovery stuff is broken. That's kind of it. I mean, how long did that take? Like 36 minutes? 6 minutes of the stream was me double checking to make sure everything was live. I missed Drixie in chat saying the VTuber awesome looks, the VTuber avatar looks so good. Well, that's on you. You made it. So your compliments to you, I suppose. And then a hydration redeem, which I had forgotten how much of this stuff I had set up on Twitch. All of the channel point redemptions. Okay. Okay, all of that is working too. That's working. I just want to double check the YouTube side of things. Let me just mute desktop for a second. Again, just want to validate to make sure everything is working correctly. Yeah. Yeah, that's working. Cool. Now that we've kind of caught up with like the major events of the day, I guess the next question is, where do we go from here? I think I'd like to jump into the engine a little bit. So there's a debate here. We could either kind of take a look at some of the engine, like we've kind of overviewed where we've been, where we're going in terms of like the code base. but we could kind of take a look at like where some of the actual like code is at. I don't know if that's fascinating to folks. That's the one thing I've never been super sure on, is like how much of this is interesting to actually just check out. How much code do we want to see? We're just, what's the term? We're doing a cozy stream. We're just going to hang out and we're going to work through some stuff. So we're going to take a look at Forest Room 1. Let's toggle off that debug so that we don't spawn all. So one thing I think could be fun is doing some more like design work and less like, so this is what this should have looked like for a first exploration. We could do some design building, like engineering and coding some stuff is definitely something we could do. Oh, I can't walk here. Why can't I walk here? Is there an object on this space, but it's not rendering? There is. There's a tree here. Tree 60, number 1, 60 being the height of it, does not exist. Is it missing its sprite? It is. Okay, let's fix that. Okay, so some of this was also not looking correct in this version. I wonder why that broke. Okay. Oh, this tree is also an older version. So are the stumps. Trixie did a recolor on some of these trees to make them a little bit, I don't know how to put it, I guess different. Less brown. But these are some older ones that did not get that treatment, so that's fine. Just doesn't look consistent. Okay, so yeah, there was a couple of trees missing in this environment. I didn't even notice. Yeah, so let's build out another room. I think is maybe a fun thing to do rather than jump into some code. Like I do need to get the skill screen up and running. There's a fair amount of like tedious component modification for the UI to get that working. And I was kind of halfway through that before deciding that I wanted to do a stream this weekend. But I think it might be more fun to take a look at building out a new space. So let's see. Let's select this asset. So we've got room 1, 2, and 3. And you know what? Let's map this out. So I've been using balsamic wireframes, which I find helpful for just like almost being like a bit of a mini whiteboard. So let's do, can I add text to this? No, not this one. Can I do a text area one? Room 01. Does that work the way I think it does? Yeah, kind of. Can I center that? I can. Can I bring it down? No. Surprised I can't do this with this object. Icons, no. Containers? Shapes? Oh, maybe a shape is what I'm looking for, but I want a square shape. I want to make it bigger. So let's map out the rooms. Room 01. Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a shape object. And then let's go back over here and also get some background music back. Let's also change this one up. Let's do something less sleepy. Sure. Some real UI building music. Common? I'm looking for the connectors. Assets. These are all sliders. Layouts. Ah, the arrow object. That's what I want. Okay, so we go from room 1. Oh, is there not snapping? Okay, so we go from room 1 to room 2 when we start. Room 2 also is like a checkpoint start space. And then when we go from room 2, we can currently go to room 3, and room 3 exists. This is kind of what we currently have set up. I would like to have a space below this so that there's immediately a separation point. So as soon as we load into a part of the map, we can kind of be like, okay, do we want to go left or do we want to go right? And like on a run, we could go all the way in one direction, or on a future run, we might be like, oh, you know what? I want to try and explore the other way. So I kind of want to have a room 4, like so. Okay, maybe we build this one next. Let's start working on that. So let's go to room 2, because I want to start from that. Usually a good idea to start from the previous room is what I found. So we're going to go open dungeon, forest, room 2. We will save this. Okay, and then we're going to save as this scene. So we're going to save as... We're going to go into assets, content, scenes, dungeons, forest, and we're going to make a room 4. This is going to get confusing as we split, so I think what I might do... Maybe this is room A, and we kind of separate the paths so that there's a numbered path going one way and like an alternate route that I use the alphabet to kind of denote. If I ever have like a third point where we can go in a third direction, though, that obviously doesn't work long term. I'm still going to do it this way for now. We could rename in the future. So we're going to do... let's just do A. Okay, so we have this A room. There's going to be a couple of things that need to happen right off the bat. First thing we're going to need to do is we're going to need to go into our room space. We're going to rename this to room A, and we are going to raycast the environment. So this is going to generate a like asset that is kind of looking at every single cube in this room and all of the extra unique points, like where all of the billboards are, and it's going to generate a asset that we can then create the room from at runtime. So when we raycast that, what happened? It looks like we failed for a couple of reasons. Let's clear and double check to see if that was a real problem. It is not. It looks like it's complaining because some old stuff still exists here. Let's clear that out so we stop getting those errors. Let's raycast, and that should have generated a new set of images. Those are going to be under art, dungeon, forest. Yeah, there's now a room raw and a room work in progress. We're going to need to open a window for the tools. Room processor. And then we're going to run on the forest folder. And that's going to generate a final, which is already set up with the addressables correctly. So this file is needed in order for it to lay out the floor. So it's saying this is the floor layout. It looks like nonsense, but this is set up in such a way that when the angled camera looks at it, it will end up being the exact right pixels to recreate whatever Drixie draws on this space. It's a bit of nonsense, but it works really well for the pixel precision, which is what I want. So that's set up. What else do we need to do in order for this to work? We have that. Let's run and see. It's been a couple weeks since I've made another room, so I just want to see what I'm missing because I feel like I'm missing stuff. Invalid key. Failed to find room A. No location found for the asset. Okay, that's the other thing. Is so when I raycast, it generates the asset, but I do not have it set up to auto give it a addressable ID. So that's going to be under the design data, dungeons, forest, room A, and this will need to have the addressable ID of room A. And this has like 70 tile datas inside of it. Okay, so now if we run it again, we should have the tile data set up. I kept the desktop audio muted. That's been like that for like a bit. Okay. Okay, so this is loading in and this is working fine. This should have all the bats and should honestly be identical to room 2 because it's using the exact same layout. Now, let's start playing with this. So we're using Unity's ProMesh builder, which I have found to be quite useful. We are going to move this over to about here. Because what's happening is we know in room 2, we will exit here, and we will expect that we come out of that room on the opposite side when we go into room A. So this is the starting point of our new map. And then we kind of need to decide where we're exiting. Let's grab this information. We know that will be a west entrance. So we will grab these tiles and we will put these here. Like so. So this is where we're spawning and where we transition from. And then I don't know where we're going from here. I don't really have a clear idea. So let's think about that. So let's go back into here. So we've entered into this room. If we go here, we might end up colliding with room 3. So maybe we go down again after this to kind of separate the two pathways. So then we'll go down from room A. These arrows don't need to be perfect. It's just for me to mentally visualize what we're doing. So we're going to go down from room A to room B. So we're going to go continuing south. Okay. That seems reasonable. Sure, let's do that. So then that means we want to grab this cube. And we're going to grab it. And its position's all wonky. Both of these are a little weird. You know what? Let's grab this one, copy it, and let's bring it back down. And maybe it's more to the left this time, in the left corner of the map. And maybe we'll wind this way. Sure. Sure. Let's grab this north entrance, grab all of its tiles, and bring them down here. And so this is opposite of the west entrance, so we're going to make this a east. Oh, do we already have an east set up? We do. All right, so we can disable this north one. We can set up the east one, and we can bring that over here. Okay. Now we can delete this cube and this cube. And then for the sake of just trying to see if this works, what's the easiest way? Let's grab this one. Oh, I need to open the Pro Builder window in order to have the pieces I need. That is part of what window? That's a default Unity thing. So that is somewhere in here? Or no, is that under Tools, Pro Builder window? Okay, so by having this up, we can hide it somewhere. We don't really need it. I just need to be able to hit 1, 2, 3, 4 to swap between these things. Which may also modify my character. Yeah. Because I currently have my smile to 2 and neutral to 1. Okay, we're going to hit 2. Okay. I might need to be careful about hitting hotkeys. Am I still... Yeah, I'm still talking. Cool. So let's do this, and then let's just, for the sake of... Yeah, I'm gonna get into trouble here. I might need to remap that. Maybe I need like a stream deck or something. Let's grab these things and move them over here. And then let's save. We're gonna modify this thing to overwrite work in progress so that it will overwrite the work in progress version. And then where did my window go for room processor? We're going to drag this down into this corner over here. I like it down there. And we're going to say rerun on the forest section. And we just need to do that every time. I'd like to figure out a way that every time I hit save, it does that by itself. But I think that's all right. Okay, so yeah, we're loading in here. That's good. And we can even see that those objects we moved over to the left are now over here. So it's a slightly different space. So that's operating. Now let's not double click that. Hey, Red Yoshi! It has been a while. Thanks for stopping by. Thank you. Red Yoshi says, hi, nice to see you went VTuber. Listen, it's not full VTuber, it's PNG tuber. I'm not entirely sure if there's a real classification difference there, but I thought this was pretty cool. Drixie spent the weekend building it for me, and I like having the little talking head. I don't know, it feels like something I would have done 14 years ago when I started YouTube if the technology existed. And in fact, I feel a little bit like I may have done something like this a long time ago, but with editing videos. I don't remember what video that was, but I feel like I grabbed like the profile picture and we did something with one of the videos, but it was just too much work to do editing every time. The technology has definitely caught up though. Okay, so let's go back to room 2. And now this one, because we copied this, we know that there should be an east in here as well. So we're going to grab that and turn that on. And this now needs to spawn tile, that's fine. These are labeled correctly. This is a entity ID for East 2 and East 1. That seems right. And then these are transitioning now. And the transition data should be going not from room 4, but room A, I believe, is what we named the scene. Just going to double check. There's no zeros. I might want to add the zeros just for consistency. Yeah, you know what? We're going to do that. Should have done it in the first place, but here we go. So we're going to do that. Then we're going to rename this file like so. We're going to save that. That means we're probably going to have to delete some of the files that we just generated. That's fine. All right. Let's generate the scene menu. Okay, reloading. Good. Now we should have that new Forest A in our dropdown. I could have just double-clicked down here, but sometimes this folder is hidden, and this is just an easier, more accessible way for me to switch between scenes is what I've found. Okay, so then in here, we're going to need to regenerate this environment. So we're going to raycast the world. That's going to make a new version here with 00A, so we will delete these versions because we won't need them anymore, and then we'll also need to rehook back up the asset, which was this one. Okay, and then we can delete this one. Cool, so we've cleaned that up a little bit. Let's also change this one's transition tile. So instead of going to room 2, it will go to room, or instead of going to room 1, it'll go to room 2. And it's going to go to the east tiles, and this is a west tile and a west tile. I believe that's right. Let's see if this works. So we should be able to transition from room A to room 2 and back and forth. That's going to be a no. What did I fail to set up? I never ran this to generate the final version of the texture. Okay, here we go again. So there's a bit of like clunkiness with the tooling, but overall I'm pretty happy with the way things have come together. Ooh, there was a bunch of errors there. What did we not like? Again, room 2. So I have a bunch of old assets from when we were doing stuff with the Unity Asset Store kind of hidden away in like an unused folder for some of this stuff. And it looks like with this setup here, they're broken. So we're just going to go through and delete a lot of these environments so that it stops doing error messages, and we're going to do the same thing with the Forest 3 as well. Yeah. Where was that? Oh, this one I've already cleaned up. Okay, so I cleaned up 3 when I was building it, but I didn't clean up 1 and 2. All right, let's go back to A. I think it did work regardless of the errors, but I just want to have things be set up correctly. Okay, no errors. And yeah, we're at the bottom of room 2. And so if we walk back over here, and we can even see here on this side, let me also make this a bit bigger. I should try and keep that in mind. But we're up here in room 2. And now if we come back down, we're in room A. So we have set it up so we can transition back and forth between spaces, which is, I mean, it took a moment, but I feel like overall pretty powerful. I'm pretty happy with the way that this has been going. So I want to go to the right and come down. So I think the easiest way to accomplish that is going to be to grab this piece here. We're going to leave that. Bring this over. Bring this in. Bring this in. We're going to bring this in. Okay. Cool. That may not work exactly. This seems okay for now. And then I'm not entirely sure where I want all of the props to be, but we're going to just start grabbing stuff and just dragging it over, and then we will figure out where we want to move props or swap props from like being bushes to trees as we kind of figure this out. For example, I do know that this is probably going to be too tall and is going to like add an angle. This large tree is going to block some of the player's view. So we can move this tree down here because it probably will be covering over some of the kind of void space in between. Let's bring this one over. This one's a bit shorter and should be okay. Let's, you know, just shift these bat spawns so that they exist in the world. So this is where we run into some weird design stuff where if I put this in a corner off to one side, if the player never comes in here, the optimal speedrunner quote unquote thing to do would be to never reveal these tiles so you never have to deal with this enemy on this route. So I think I do want to try and make it so that there's no way to avoid these guys in some situations. Or if we are going to put an enemy spawn here, there should be some reward that encourages you to go there that is, I guess, more valuable than like leaving it behind in the future. Like it's a reward valuable enough that I'm willing to make future runs annoying. Again, I don't know if that's good or bad, but there's something about that statement that I think is interesting. About like the player having to make a choice between do I collect this upgrade of some kind, some sort of perk that maybe gives me more skill points, or do I leave it behind because it's going to make future runs more difficult? And like I said, I haven't seen a lot of people doing like a fixed map roguelike, but like, and I don't even know if that's what you would really call this, but it's like you're doing runs like a roguelike, but kind of trying to progressively explore more as you go. And I think there's inherent design flaws with that idea, but I still like the constraint of the design space. I feel like it's going to do interesting things. Or it's going to force me to have to design things in interesting ways at the very least. So, speaking of designing things in interesting ways, I'm a little concerned about... Oh, I realized I may not be getting YouTube chat the way that I have things set up. I think we're still fine. Yeah, I think we're still fine. We are gonna make a small modification over here on the left, though. We're gonna close this version of the YouTube chat and instead actually update to the one that's correct. Okay, so speaking of interesting design constraints, so I'm trying to currently set everything up such that there's always a prop, a billboard on the edge of each map, such that like you can never walk to the edge and just be like, oh, there's void here. It's partly Lay Siege is starting to become noticeable, so we're going to move that. Yeah, I feel like I could build this in such a way that you can walk up to the edge, but it makes it easier for, like, I find a player to see where they've already explored. Because if you see that there's, like, a bush there, you're like, oh, I've already been to that spot. But I also don't want to make full closures where it's like, oh, the only way into this spot is like a one tile depth space, and that's tricky. I keep changing my emotes, I think, as I kind of try and use the hotkeys I'm used to for manipulating the environment. So like right here and there and a little bit here becomes a bit crowded with such a weird space because I want to put in props to kind of have them on the edge of every part of the world. But that means I have to expand the size of this cube. So like I can't really make narrow spaces, at least with tiles. I can make narrow spaces with props. So for example, one thing I could do here is instead of doing this as like an individual one, we could just use props here, like a few different bush pieces. To generate the same kind of experience. And in fact, let's swap in a tree 35 high here to kind of break that up a little bit. This one's probably not going to work here either. Let's bring that over. And this will bring us down so that we still have two spaces, but you know, it's still being blocked off by like a couple of props. So it's not the environment's tiles that are blocking us. It is the actual billboards themselves. I don't know. It's just different ways of doing the same thing, I guess. But I find there's a pretty heavy constraint set with the way that I'm deciding to do this, for better or for worse. I do think we have done some rivers, which I think I showed in some of those previous videos. I think the rivers are fine as like blockage points as well, so that like, oh, it's down a level and I can't just walk down there. And so rivers could also work to kind of divide spaces. But for now, I'm trying to keep the theming of these first, you know, probably 10 to 14 rooms really focused on like, on like a foresty theme, and leave the rivers for more of like a plains, which will have more difficulty. Okay, I don't fully understand what all of these things are in terms of like how they're going to create a map layout. So I'm going to need to play this and see. We're also going to delete these debug interacts so that we're not continuously copying those through. But let's run this and get a feel for whether or not this is working. I immediately see actually one thing I want to change, which is right here. We need a prop, and we also technically need two props here. So we're going to extend this one to the edge here, just so that we can... This tree is going to be a problem. I know that. But let's just see it in action. There we go. So now if I'm checking the edge of this, there's never a point. There's a diagonal, which is fine, but there's never a edge of the map that is fully revealed except for when we're exiting a zone. kind of self-imposed restrictions. The system doesn't need to have this. Like if I walked up to an edge, it would stop me from moving forward, but I just think it looks better. So yeah, that tree's a problem. That can't be there because it completely blocks off our ability to see. For the sake of simplicity, let's also turn these off because I don't want to deal with combat right now. I showed in the very beginning that I raycast the environment. I did set up a thing that every time I save the scene, it like does the raycast for me, so it'll regenerate any of the props that get shifted or moved, which is, again, I think I need to do more of that for like setting up addressables for the asset and a couple of other things that would just make my life a little easier. Okay, so this 35 tree here with the kind of sparse branches is okay. I guess I can always see my character, so this might be fine. It's debatable. I might have to think on that. There's too many bushes all along the edge there. I would like to break that up a little bit more. Ooh, this space is very hard to read, a bit cluttery, but this big tree does cover nicely. It doesn't feel like it's actually like cutting off any of the space. So the only ones that are a little weird, I would say, is maybe this one, and this one for sure. These ones are debatable because Drixie did a good job of kind of building out these like spaces in the billboard so that we can still see where our character is. But I do think we get a little lost still. We might need to continue to iterate on this art piece. Double up on the music. All right. I want to change up these. This doesn't feel right. This is maybe a little odd. Okay, let's make some tweaks. Let's try moving this tree here. Let's grab this bush and swap it. Let's grab this tree and move it down to here. Moving this bush up. Let's grab this tall tree, number 8, and let's bring that down. Ooh, do we want to risk putting it over here somewhere? Actually, what if we try that? What if we try putting tree here on the left? That might be okay. They'll overlap a little bit, but it might read... might read okay. I'm curious to see if we put a number 35 tall tree, the ones with the branches here, if that looks okay. Just trying to break up the number of bushes. And then here, I might just swap one of these out for a stump. Oh, wait, maybe tree 35 is the stump. Am I getting those mixed up? I think I am. Yeah, tree 50 is the branch one. Tree 35 is actually a stump, I think. I'm going to double check. Tree 35. Yeah, that's the stump. Okay. 35 pixels high is, again, what those numbers mean. And that's why I realized I was wrong, because there's a 50 and a 35, so this is the taller one. Let's give that a shot. Let's see how that feels. Did we not save? Or did I grab the wrong tree? I may not have hit save. Forgot to hit Control S. There we go. So that tree is no longer in the way. That's good. I feel like we could have more tall trees on the edge of the world a little bit. Don't love this. This is starting to get a little clashy. This one also gets a little lost behind these bigger trees. I think this could be a stump instead. This I think is okay. Debatable. Again, I think this asset might need more work to try and make it a little bit more simplistic. Let's take a look and see. I think Drixie may have done a pass of more props for me. Drixie did. All right, we've got stone boulders. We've got some rubble. Got some smaller ones. Got some flowers. All right. So we've got some more assets since the last time I did map work. We could try and break this up a little bit more so it's not just continuous bushes, but we get a couple of like other types of objects. We've got a fallen log. Okay. Let's get some of those in. All right, so let's take a look at how we set these up. So in here we have forest, we have these trees, we have some grass, we have some bushes. Let's make a new one and we'll call this rocks, I guess. Let's copy, let's see this one. Copy this one, bring it over. We're gonna name this rocks. And then I think the naming scheme, Trixie didn't add the height of these. That's a 35, that's a 35, and that's a 35. So they're all the same height, but I think these ones could be a lot smaller. I'm gonna reduce the size just to make it a little easier. We're gonna bring over a sprite. We're gonna bring in small boulders. And then we're going to hit canvas, and we're going to bring this way down. I think this could get away with being 8 pixels high instead. We're going to save that out. And then let's bring in these ones. Canvas, we're going to bring this down. Can we get away with 20? We can. Not cutting anything off. Cool. And then this one. Also 20. Cool. There's some dead space on the sides that we could optimize some memory by like making those shorter as well, but for the time being, let's say that's okay. So now if we click back in, these are all resized a little bit. And then we're gonna have a rock 08, 01, and this will be the small boulders, and then we will recopy that and we will do a 35_1 if I can type, and a 35_2. Okay, let's bring this guy up. Let's make one boulder. And let's make two boulders. Okay. Now, how do we actually hook these up? It looks like we go with we give them an addressable name that is their folder plus their name. So this will be rocks, and this will be, I guess this should actually be rock 08. Let's rename each of these. Rock, and rock. Okay, cool. So that has that name. This will be number 35. And this will be 35-2. Cool. So I was concerned that some of these repetitive bushes felt a little odd to me. So let's take one of these and let's make this instead, maybe this one. We'll make it the one giant boulder. Put that there, and then we will rename this to Rock 35-1. And let's just make sure that we set that up okay. Yep, that's a boulder. Don't know how I feel about it. first time looking at this asset in game. We might want to do some revisions. I feel like it's falling away. Also, the shadowing is wrong as well. Small thing, but oh, let's mute this background audio. Is this true for all three of these? Where'd the Asebright folder go? Drixie drew in the shadow on the left. Kind of, yeah, still on the left. And yeah, shadow on the left. So these will need to be... Ooh, actually, can I just do this? I might be smart enough to do a small change. Save. Oh, what's the hotkey for this? What is this? So R, H? Okay. So now if we bring that back in, that feels better. Okay. Yeah, the reason I wasn't sold on it is because the shadowing felt wrong. But we needed to be facing the direction of where the light is coming from, because the shadows are obviously being cast in this direction. Cool. All right. Cool. So now let's see. We're gonna... Maybe we could break up some of these ones as well. How do we want to do that? Let's say grabbing this guy, and let's break this up with maybe the center one being 2 boulders. Yeah, this is, I guess, the number scheme problem is every time I modify this unity is going to duplicate it and add another number to the end. So maybe Drixie's right, and these assets shouldn't be named based off of numbering of their pixel heights, but instead be named after what they actually are. That's probably smarter in the long term. Like, again, I got a little confused here, but if this tree 50 was actually tree with like sparse branches, which is a bit long, obviously, but things to think about. I also want to have a copy of... I want to have a copy of this rock, which I'm going to put over here. And then this one here, I said I wanted to try doing the small ones. Where did my audio go? So this is 0801 for now. If I do want to rename these, it's going to be annoying because I'm going to have to go back through and change all of this. But I could probably make a script to modify it quickly. I don't know. It's just the more I build with it, the more it feels like it's fine, but also a little cumbersome. Which probably means it's okay. Well, that feels alright. I will say the stones feel like they're exiting the tile a little bit, which I'm not sure how I feel about that. Unlockable characters with the hydrate for 200. Channel redemption points, I suppose. The thing that's also a little unrealistic, with the stretch too. Do we want to get fancy? Since I've last streamed, I now have a standing desk, so we could use the stretch as a stand. The only problem with this is I recently got a new monitor and I have not tried raising this. Oh, are the wires going to be a problem? Oh, okay. Things are getting taut. I'm going to go slow. Let's move the mic. We're going to go up. We need more height. What's this? That's 9. That's about 9. Okay. Okay. We're gonna try, chat. Oh, that was a bad noise. What was that? Okay, that makes sense. No, it's fine. Don't panic. Things that should have been tried before going live. Oh, we got there. Okay. We have the slack. We have the slack. Oh, this is not high enough. All right. This mic position should still be good. Audio level looks all right. Maybe, honestly, could be pulled a little further away. Not that far. Okay, cool. We are now standing. We are doing the stretch. We are doing some stretches. We're gonna make sure that we are not sitting continuously. We are gonna do some standing. All right. So one thing I'm realizing as I was taking the drink of water is that we... how do I put this? We are looking at this from a very simple white floor rather than a correct floor. And I feel like that's going to make things stand out and maybe read a little bit wrong in some regards. So I might be a little judgmental on things, partly because of the pure white. Let's see here. Let's open a couple of files. So we're going to open a work in progress. We're going to open that in Sprite. Let's see, where's that folder located to? Not under billboards. Dungeon, forest. A work in progress. Okay, and then we're going to grab the first room, which is this one. This was already a little stitched up by me from a previous floor that Drixie has made. So what if we just grab, say, this color and we just blanket that? That's going to be a bit intense. And then what if we grab a bit of this? Let's get a brush size increase to like 5 pixels. This is not my forte. This is what Drixie's been like really trying to hone in on. So bear with me. So we're going to come in here. We're going to have a path going this way. Maybe it like fails to like go all the way. Kind of falls off a little bit. And then like maybe it picks back up around here, leading us around the kind of props that we know are going to be in that space. And then we are going to like finalize it with coming over here. Okay, so that's a bit of a prop. Okay, do that. And then let's grab another color, aka a slightly darker one. We're gonna kind of just... Oh, is that the same one? I guess we want this one instead. Yeah, so we can come in here and just kind of like sketch this in a little bit. Doesn't need to be perfect. Drixie will come in and do a later pass of this, making it look way nicer than what I can do. Way nicer. Just don't want to leave any dead spots. We'll trace that in a little bit. Just try and fill this in. Try and make this look less blocky. Do some swirls. Just a little bit like so. Fill in some gaps. Maybe come around this side. And maybe call that good. Maybe for the fun of it, we'll just add a bit of dirt over here. Maybe a little dirt over this way. Just on the edges of the world a little bit. I don't know. See how that looks. Try something new. All right. Definitely not as good as this, and even this was just like me patching other things up. But okay, cool. Hello, Lurks and Corners. Mostly just working on dev stuff. I spent the first half an hour or so kind of just talking about things, kind of showing the progress we've been making over the past year towards this like almost secondary project. The first one that we were working on when we were streaming last about 2 years ago was like more of a full JRPG. We've kind of shifted to trying to do something smaller scope with the hope to return to that larger scope project, that bigger, massive thing that we want to build one day. That's probably going to take us like 10 years. We'll do that eventually, but for now we're trying to build something that we can like get out the door and understand how to put something out on like, I don't know, Steam or Itch or something. So this is just a smaller project that we've been working on for about a year, maybe a year and a bit. So I went through and kind of showed all of the history of that at the beginning of the stream. So probably worth checking out on YouTube. But otherwise, we're just kind of like, we're building some spaces in some rooms in the roguelike. Okay, so I saved this file. Let's go back into Unity, and then let's come back over here, and we're going to process the forest. And that should generate, again, this looks really weird, but it generates like a diagonal kind of slice of everything I just drew. But when we actually run the game, the way it will lay out will be identical to what we drew. So again, this, it doesn't look amazing, but it's fine. But if you look at this, it's actually rendering out with like all of these like individual dots. And then the blue you're seeing there is actually like a water texture I apply to every tile right now, which is not ideal. But the water texture is like for showing like streams and stuff. Again, if folks weren't here earlier, I'm just going to pull up a quick video kind of showing what a map with water looks like. Oh, this video doesn't have the water animating, but I do have it set up to like animate, which is kind of cool. But anyways, that's what that blue is. That blue is the water. But yeah, so the green though is all of those individual lines, but because of our camera angle and a lot of math, we got it so it lays out and renders only those pixels. I don't know, it's a bit of work, it's a bit crazy, but I'm really happy with it. So even though I'm not the best at this, and I think Drixie is way better at like building out these spaces, I think that still adds quite a lot compared to the pure white floor. It really helps like anchor a lot of it down. Some of it still feels a bit floaty in spots, which we're gonna look at trying to do maybe like an additional layer for like the roots of the trees to try and like bring those into like the space a little bit more, but it's a later problem. Ooh, I like the way the shadow is hitting on this rock, and then there's a bit of shadow here. That feels pretty good. Pretty happy with the way some of this stuff is coming together. Okay. What's bad here? So the rocks help. I do think the rocks help break up a bit of the like continuous green of the bushes. So we probably could continue to add more of those. What other props did Drixie get recently that I have not made assets for? Right, we've got a bunch of bush foliage. So we also have like a different form of bush. So this is like high detail one, but this is like a very different style. We could also try swapping that in. What does that look like actually? I assume this is meant to be a replacement for what I have been using. So if we come into here and we swap this sprite, I'm sorry, Drixie, if I'm going to be judgmental here. Yeah, I'm going to be judgmental. Okay, so I don't think that looks as good personally. It's definitely worth the try. But I guess you were probably trying to go for more of a like simplistic look as like an alternate kind of layout. But I feel like it's too far away from the treetops in color and tone. We'd need to iterate on that if that's the direction you want to go. She may not watch back this part, but just in case, I'll probably end up telling her off stream at a later point. Okay, so I like these ones more. They're definitely higher detail, but I kind of like that more for us. Okay, so we're going to leave these bushes. What about like these fallen logs? What have we got here? We've got fallen log, which is just basic one. Got fallen log moss, which is the same asset but with some grass on it. Fallen log mushrooms, which not thrilled about the design of that one. Again, a little simplistic in the coloring scheme compared to what we've been doing with some of the other stuff. These are interesting. I feel like, again, this color scheme is kind of more in line with this one. Maybe not. Oh, Trixie did update, because I'm still using this version of the stump, but Trixie did make a new stump to match the new color scheme of the trees. I don't like this one as much either, though. I'm being picky. That's a fair point, too. More grasslands with the lighter bush opposed to, like, foresty. Maybe that's what I'm trying to get at, is I'm trying to go for the forest, and I feel like it needs to be, like, grittier, but there's also kind of like a stylistic choice. And I think over the shoulder, I think Drixie was doing a pass of like 3 or 4 different styles that we could do for all of our assets, like 4 different trees, 4 different bushes. I don't think all of that's in here yet. I think she's still exploring. Okay, for now though, let's bring in the logs, because I think the logs should be another good asset that we can use. These all went under like foliage. So, do we put that under bushes? Let's put it under trees. Let's make a new tree. Let's take a look at the log. The log is also maybe a little big. I'm going to probably trim that down a little bit just to save space. So let's come over here. Let's do show and explorer. Open up a sprite. And maybe we'll do the mossy one. Sure, it'll blend in a little bit. I kind of want to see what that looks like. Hit C for canvas, drag this down. Let's do 20, keep it even. Ooh, actually we might want to... We probably want it to touch the bottom. We probably want to drag this down, or drag this up too, because otherwise it'll float a little bit up. Which is gonna cause issues with the shadows. Trixie is watching. I'm being critical of your stuff. I don't know if you heard that part. Okay, so we're gonna bring this up and do that, and this is 15 now. So we're gonna make a fallen log asset. We're just gonna name that 15, and we'll just call it log. Moss. Moss log? Why does that look weird? Did I spell moss wrong? Yeah, I added an H. That's mosh. It's not a mosh pit log. Okay, let's... Addressables. What do we do with these? Trees. And then this is... Sure, that seems good. And then this guy needs to point at that object. Okay. All right, quickly jump out of here. Let's grab that name of that asset we just made. We're going to grab this one and we're going to drop that in maybe here at the front. This naming scheme is weird. The more I use it, the more I don't love it. Which is my naming scheme. Didn't hit save. Thus, the asset was not modified. Okay. How does that work with clipping? Okay, I'm not walking behind it. But what about here? I'm in front of it? Okay, yeah. Not really seeing any issues with that. Oh, I like the shadows from the tiny rocks. We have the angle of like the sun pretty low, but I really love the way it creates like these really interesting shadows across the ground. We could always bring it up at some point, and that's a pretty easy change, but I still like the way this is feeling quite a lot. Yeah. I like where it is. I could maybe see a world where like... Maybe we want to go higher, actually. Something like this could be more subtle. But again, I like the way that it hits on the back of things. It creates more like dynamicness to a lot of the space, having more shadows. Okay, let's zoom back out again. I don't love this log placement here. Maybe we try swapping it with that bush. I'm just curious, how do I use this? How do I like create visual interest in the space? How do we create visual interest? Didn't hit save again. That's going to be important. I'm distracted. I'm checking out what's going on with Twitch. Looks like connection's still good. We're still good there. Still fine on YouTube. Still fine on YouTube. All right. Doing the things. Okay, logs completely hidden if placed directly behind a bush, or I guess diagonally placed behind a bush. I guess continuing with curiosity about how this works, if we bring this here, how does that look? Should appear half behind the bush at this point. Again, didn't hit save. Need to actually hit save every time. Come on. There we go. Now we can hit play. Okay. The unlockable characters hydrate has been redeemed. I just muted and did that. And then... And thank you, Skypo? Always been the worst with names. Merc, thank you for the gifted subs to Lurks and Corners and Drixie. Saipo? Wait, gonna keep butchering it. I like this. I like the log behind the bush here. I think that looks pretty good, actually. I don't think it looks good in this particular spot. What if we swap the trunk here? What if we bring the trunk forward to like where I wanted to have a prop and then put this here instead? Does this look good on the edge of the map? Maybe the log is another good way to like break up the edge of the world. All the gifted subs. Much appreciated. Okay. Yeah, I don't mind that. I don't mind that at all. I feel like maybe it could be a little taller, or maybe it could be refined a little bit to kind of... it's getting a little lost, a little muddy, but I don't dislike this idea of something lower. Don't like the double trunks there. Okay, let's try adding some more rocks again. So let's replace one of these trunks. Let's just delete. And let's bring in, let's try the moss. And then we're going to replace one of these with maybe these double boulders, 2 boulders. Here. Let's give that a shot. And just to even speed things up a little bit, sometimes I can like miss stuff with by not doing the reveal, but I'm gonna try, nope, not here, under the boardroom. Debug spawn all. Let's just have the whole world spawn in and see how it's looking. The off-on of this tooling still feels a little bit odd to me. Oh, we did not notice this with the other rock here, and we didn't notice it when it was over here, but this has a really straight edge on the bottom that feels somewhat unnatural. Okay. I would also argue it goes a little too far to the left and kind of covers over the grid markings, which, I don't know, the grid markings may not even make it to final version, but like, that looks odd to me. So we want to hide the rocks, at least for now, behind objects to kind of cover a bit of that edge. So we can bring one into here, for example. So let's bring this rock into like here, and that should look a bit better. I actually don't know. I don't know what the on-screen celebration bit reward is. That might be something that was added since I last streamed. And if so, I am sorry that that may not have done anything. I think I can... Oh, interesting. I see it on Twitch. I don't see it on the OBS read. Neat. That is a feature I was not aware of. Cool. Now I just want to play with Twitch. See, I'm just like, well, where is that? How do I see what my bit rewards are again? It's been forever since I've looked at that. Sorry, I'm going to just take a second because I'm curious. Open this up. Is that under power-ups and channel points? Manage channel points. Oh, neat. Okay, yeah. What were you saying? You were saying, Okay, yeah. So this is a whole new feature I'm not aware of. That's cool. There's a whole section for power-ups, which I have not edited or modified. They must have come in completely as is. Or like in default form. So message effects, gigantified emotes, and on-screen celebrations. All right. I'm not sure how I feel about the on-screen celebration personally, but I don't know. I might turn that off. I'll think about that. That's cool. I'm going to double check to make sure that my avatar is still talking. Yeah, okay, I didn't mess anything up there. Whew. All right. Okay, what were we doing here? Oh, we were hiding the rock. Oh, interesting. Because there is not a prop here, it's a little bit shown. Okay. Let's try moving it to here. Yeah, I think viewing this kind of like level editing stuff on stream makes me like conscious or self-conscious about it, where I'm like, oh man, having to hit play and stop every single time feels bad when I'm streaming it. But when I'm actually doing this by myself, like just working through a level and kind of designing it, it's not usually that big of a deal. So I think I'm just being a little overly conscious. Okay, so I think this needs to get reworked a little bit down here. So what we're gonna do, this area could use some love. I will say, Drixie, if you're still in here, that I am really enjoying the extra props that you have created. Like just more diversity beyond just bushes and trees, I feel like is helping build out the space quite a bit. I'm gonna just delete this log because I think there's just too many logs. We're gonna grab this rock here, the single, because I think that one reads a little better when it's by itself. We're gonna throw that one in there, and we're also gonna grab, I don't think this is gonna work, but we're gonna grab some small rocks and we're gonna try wedging that behind the log and see how that reads. Okay. So I will say it's neat. It makes me think about cool ideas, but that looks like a passage I should be able to walk over. So the one thing about having such a small prop like these rocks is it doesn't read as a blockage in quite the same way. Or at the very least, it's like, oh, I should be able to, like, that's a secret passage I should be able to walk over kind of feel, which we don't want to create that, like, unintentional response from a player. So I don't think those work there. So does that mean that this rock works better when used in this position? Oh, I had two bushes there. I had overlapped. And then instead here, let's grab, can I hide the double behind the log? I haven't tried that yet. Little bit. The edge here is still a little bit wonky looking, so it needs to almost be directly diagonally behind a prop in order for it to read very well. I like it overall, though. I'm definitely getting more of the, like, forest feel. Sorry, I'm gone silent, but I'm just trying to analyze, like, what's not working now? What would I want to keep tweaking? This area here with all the bushes is maybe a little busy, but I actually don't mind it too much. This prop also feels like it's not blocking the environment. The log here feels like it's not necessarily... it's fine. I'm being picky. Yeah, this feels a little busy with bushes. I think just the center one, though, needs to change. Oh, there's not a center one. I'm going to make a judgment call. I'm going to say that this should actually be a little bigger, and this should probably be this same double rock here. Yeah, I'm gonna need to move the hotkeys around so that I'm not accidentally, like, modifying my avatar. I do like being able to switch between them. Did we set up the glasses? No, we didn't. Okay. I'd like to have a toggle to toggle the glasses off too, just because that's fun. Yeah. I like this a little bit more. Just kind of, even though it's added a prop to not change the actual bushes, it just helps break up the space a little bit. This is a little bit odd, but that's fine. again, this is maybe where I'm starting to be like, I thought it was really interesting actually kind of talking through a lot of the initial like placement, but when we get into this finessey kind of like, I don't know, I'm just eyeballing stuff. Like Red Yoshi says, I feel like it becomes a little bit more dry. I'm gonna pull this. Okay, got it. I want to pull this bush out entirely, I think. And I want to just pull this in. I think that's going to be better. Yeah, I like that a little bit more. Still not perfect. Red Yoshi brings up the idea of flowers. Drixie did make some flower props, so we could take a look at some flowers. So let's open up a new folder and let's get a new one of those going. And while I'm doing all of this work, let's get the music playing. Let's also switch it up again. What else we got here? This one? Going on an adventure. For flowers. Okay, flowers. Let's copy a prop. Let's copy this grass one, which was something I was playing with and isn't real. And then let's name this flower. We will figure out the size in a moment. Okay, and then up here, let's take a look. We've got a white flower. This one's got some violet, so if we're looking for more color, I feel like that's probably a good shout. We could also break it up with this mushroom stump as well, but I just don't like that asset as much. I am sorry. Yeah, let's do this one. I think it can also be reduced in size, so we're going to just open up the folder. Let's see, flower bunch. Is this the one? Yes. We're going to hit C to bring in the canvas. We're going to bring this down to... I don't want to cut it off at 25. I'm going to leave the extra room. I'll keep it at 30. But we will shave it down a little bit. Alright, and then we're going to come into flowers. We're going to... Oh, this one was a... Yeah, because I was playing around with the grass, which was weird. Just trying to see if I could have like multiple layers of billboards kind of like stacked, but the way the pixels worked out, it just wasn't feeling right. Hopefully this one isn't messed up because of the... This might be a bad one to copy and paste, but we'll see. So those flowers were 30, so we're just going to keep the same naming convention for now. Okay. And then we also need to give it an addressable ID so we can find it, which is how the whole, like, these green dots are actually working. Flowers. Flower. 30. And then we will copy that. And maybe we try bringing this one in here. Not what I wanted to do. Oh my goodness, Unity sometimes. All right, there we go. Okay, we run into the same problem as the rocks, which is interesting. It's just too flat on the edge. It looks too unnatural. Interesting, because we don't run into this problem with the bushes, or at least I don't notice it nearly as much. Okay, but that's fine. This is the first time Drixie's made assets with such a flat edge. This is feedback we'll just move forward with. I don't mind the extra color though, so let's try shifting it. Maybe we could try swapping this bush for the flowers. It might be too busy. Or it might be too high. Yeah, so that's okay. I feel like it kind of, like, you lose a little bit of the what it is without some of the, like, stalks from the bottom part. Okay, let's try replacing the stump here with a mossy log to see if that helps with the readability. Yeah, it does. And you can see a little bit of the edge here, but it's not too bad. I will say this mossy log is not as readable, so we are going to do... regular log. This one need to be trimmed? I feel like it does. I have listened to this music a lot, and I love it. For the last 2-3 years? Okay, bring him in. Let's bring in that fallen log. We need to give it an addressable ID. Perfect. And then let's do this one. I want to try changing this one out. Because I think the green, like Red Yoshi was saying, is kind of getting, it's like too much of the same. So if we go with more of a brown log here, it'll help break up this little section. The color idea was so that way you have something your eye can gradate still instead of similar shades of green and dark and yellow, dark and light green. That is anyways. Okay, okay. That didn't read. Why didn't that work? Did I not? Try again. I think I just renamed the name of the object, not the actual addressable prop to use. Yeah. The shadows from the bushes kind of hide it a little bit. It's not reading as well, but I actually don't mind this kind of low grassy kind of central area here. I think the last thing I might do here is I might just pull out this prop. The whole point when we originally built this was to try and make more of a wall with props instead of using the environment. But I just think it's a little too busy in this particular scenario. Yeah. All right. Cool. I guess last thing, this tree over here is is the next thing my eye is drawn to as feeling a little weird. It's just a little muddy. Trees next to each other usually don't feel as bad, so maybe what we'll do is we'll just grab this bush and swap here so that we have them more on a line rather than diagonally kind of like next to each other. Well, I guess they weren't diagonal, but still, I think this is going to look better. And it does. Does that hide much of this tile here? No, because whatever... Well, so yes and no. So it hides what the props are behind that tile, which I don't love. So I think we want to not do this. Let's see about maybe just a simple rock here instead. Those are the small ones. I thought I was grabbing a big one. Let's grab this one. And then I think we're probably good with this one. It's not perfect, but like, I don't know. It's a room. Yeah, I feel better about that. We don't lose any of the props. I can see that there's a bush here. I can see there's a log. Yeah. It probably, like, this is a bit repetitive. 2 bush, rock, 2 bush, but like, I think we can always get more props and change this up a little bit more. I like the 2 stones here. This feels good being covered in like other objects. Yeah. I think this is feeling good. All right. So this is another room created. So now we can go back and forth between room 2. Or we're in room A going into room 2. And then we can come back into here. That comes in pretty well too, actually. I like the fall out and fall in on that. Yeah, that's a neat space. I like that a lot. It's not perfect. There's room for improvement, but for the purposes of prototyping, I think this is fine. All right. So where were we? We had done. So we have room 1, which is where we start the game. We go into room 2. That can go into room 3 or room A. And then we don't have a room B yet. This doesn't exist. But we have the transition set up for that. Okay. And we know actually room 3 is already set up to leave this way, which I guess is going into room 4. So red border is not created yet. Black border, we have at least a template. I don't know where we're going, but the eventual goal is that we're going to end up at like another checkpoint. And then we're just letting the player decide to go in a couple of different routes, I think. I think... I think we kind of want something like this to start. I think this should be a good kind of template to prototype things out with. And this will give the player kind of like 2 different options for how they want to progress. But I think they'll be equal in length if I've done this correctly. So we start here and then we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So yeah, it's equal pathing, but the player can kind of choose 2 different routes to get to the next kind of checkpoint, essentially. And then from here, we'll navigate outwards to, I don't know, probably this way, and then see where the map takes us from there towards the next checkpoint. Again, it's still a lot to build, but I still feel like this is a much smaller scope than what we were originally thinking with Era of Embers, like the JRPG original like pitch to do like a full scope Final Fantasy. I feel like something like this is going to feel, it mechanically should come together relatively quickly. The main thing we're kind of missing at this point is the skills tree, which I will get to. It's just being somewhat annoying. Some point I also need to take a look at the enemy AI. That's probably a next month problem, but I'd like to maybe do a couple of different enemy types that'll kind of change up play styles a little bit as well. The other thing I haven't really talked about, but like I really want to try and build out like a combo system as well. So like inspiration from like things like Dark Souls and like fighting games, where like I'd like to have a system in which like right now we have light, heavy, and shove, and I kind of want to see if I can come up with a system that's kind of like high, low, mid. If folks are familiar with like fighting games, which I'm personally not even that familiar with them, but I just know that there's like kind of three kind of different types of attacks with like three different types of blocks. But I kind of like this idea of like, oh, I can do like a high attack and then a high attack, and then I can do like a low attack, and if I do those three on a bat, that'll cause like a combo where it misses its turn. And I want each enemy type to have like a different series of attack orders that like, oh, if I do mid, mid, high on like, I don't know, like a wolf enemy, then that enemy will also get stunned. And so part of the game will be exploring the environment tile by tile, revealing each space, but also each time you encounter a new enemy, trying to figure out what combination of, you know, different types of abilities are going to yield to the most effective takedown. Similar to something like Persona, where every time you get into a battle, you need to use every different element on a new enemy to try and figure out what its weakness is. And then every battle after that, you kind of just go, I use the weakness, I all out attack. I use the weakness, I all out attack. Similar kind of discovery experience. Okay. So these enemies I think are fine. I kind of like the way that when we first enter this room, if it's already fully revealed from a previous run, this bat here is going to come up here and kind of block our entrance. That's another thing I'd like to see, is how the experience will change based off of like enemies' initial placement when you enter into an already revealed space. And is there ways of like getting the enemies to be like more aggressive or gang up on you a little bit more? Little things. I also want to add more value to shove at some point. Like shove will obviously fall into like maybe low or a high or something, but right now shoving doesn't actually cause like damage when you push them into an object, and I'd like it so in that situation shove does more damage. And when we get to like a grasslands area with the rivers, I obviously want to have shove, like if you push an enemy into a river tile that's behind them, they just like die instantly, but maybe you miss out on some like drops. We don't really have loot drop yet, but like I expect experience orbs or soul crystals or something like that could make sense for like the theming of the experience being kind of based off of like an isekai as like its core template. Okay, cool. All right, so one thing about this thing here that we've built is every single one of these is going to be a solo room entrance and exit. Or like it's like a linear path. I wonder... Enjoy, have fun. Red Yoshi gone to get you ice cream. Or, yeah, ice cream. At the custard place. Sounds good. Sounds good. Okay, we could do at some point maybe like an exit. Just to kind of create more branching paths. We could do something like that. So it's not always so linear. That still yields with it still being the same amount of steps to get there. We could also do like an offshoot up here somewhere too. I also mentioned at the beginning of the stream, but some of this stuff is based off of like Etrian Odyssey's like dungeon crawl experience, and like one-way doors could be another thing that we do as well. I don't know if I'm sold on that, but something like that. So you can only enter from 7 to go backwards, but once you've done that, the route opens up to let you go either way. So in the future, you can skip these two rooms and go directly here. It's hard to display that here. Yeah, I can't think of a way to show that. Maybe color? Is there a color option? There is. So like secret entrances. I don't know how I'd do that though, because the environment changes. I'd have to write some sort of code to make it so that like a bush disappears when you walk in from 7 to 4, and then that bush remains gone forever, opening up a passageway that wasn't there before. It's not impossible. Probably could do that pretty quick. How long have we been streaming for? 2 hours and 15 minutes. Holy smokes. I think I'm good to keep going though. Oh, I should eat at some point though. Trying to think about like what good next steps are. We could build another room. Like I clearly need to build more rooms, and each one of these takes me like half an hour to an hour depending on how fussy I am. I probably should be more like flippant. I don't know, I can't think of a better word, but more just like, okay, this is a room, it has a layout, moving on. Like this is where the enemy placements are. But I feel like aesthetically figuring out how the props are all laid out will drive some of the experiential movement through the spaces. Let's keep building. Let's build another room. Let's copy this one and let's work on B next. I have an idea for B. So we're going to save as. We're going to go infinite retries, content, scripts. Sorry, scenes. Dungeons. Forest. And let's make B. Lurks in Corner says less precious? Is that how, is that what that word is? Streamer brain. I do not remember how to say words. Yeah, okay. I can see it. I can see the usage of that. I'm being very like particular with a lot of what I'm building. All right, so we've got room B. How do we do this? We want to start by going to this. We'll rename this room B. This name doesn't even have to change. This could just be called room manager if I wanted. We're going to raycast to start, which I guess I could just hit save and it would do the same thing. We're going to generate a new floor by doing this to generate a final version, which it will need. And then because this is the first time I'm making this room, I need to hook up the addressable. Again, I could make this so that it generates the addressable ID if it doesn't have one, but it's so infrequent that I have to do this, that step feels like it's probably more work to build than to just do it each time. I don't know, maybe it'll add up over the course of however many rooms this game ends up having. Alright, so this is a room. This is technically room B. This will be the floor. We will come in here. That will be the exact floor that we should come in on. And then we can reuse this west entrance. Put this in here. And that should work. And then we just need to transition to... Oh, there we go. Let's open this up. We're going to transition to room A here. And same thing with this one. Transitioning to room A. Okay, and this is a west tile and a west tile. All right. And then same idea, we're going to grab one of these cubes here. Am I smiling? I am smiling. Good. Do that. In fact, it might need to go a little further. It should. I think this here is the edge of my world. I have a base cube or something that shows me. Where is it? That's the floor. Right, the water base will tell me. Oh. Oh, did we overextend last time? I forgot to check the dimensions of the world. So it's not required that I stay within this 20 by 20 cube. Obviously the system worked. It didn't care. But it does kind of like break the symmetry of the game a little bit. I might need to go back to room A and tweak that in a bit. Probably just by moving the entrance over and then just having you exit sooner. Unlockable character says, I find perfectionism causes the attention to detail, but as you make more scenes, your skills improve, so you can start over to make the old scenes as good as the new ones and just repeat the cycle. That's fair. And like, I've been complaining pretty continuously about like my naming scheme for the props this evening as well. And that probably is an indication that I need more repetitions with creating the spaces. And if I was building faster and less precise, or at least less picky or less precious, then it would be... It might be that I would find some of those hurdles quicker and then sort them out without taking as much time. Do want to be careful about this type of stuff because I may end up with the same organization of props every single time. So I will need to pay attention to like just shuffling some of these occasionally. So I do think I want to bring this in a bit. And I do think I will want to modify A because I want to try and keep the constraint of being within the 20 by 20 cube. At least for the early parts. Maybe we break that convention later in the experience. But for the time being, I think I want to keep it within this 20 by 20, which I have overextended on. So we are going to save this. We're going to come up here. We're going to regenerate the menu. We got to hit this twice so that it actually reloads. Okay, we're going to go back over into... This should be a hopefully easy modification. We're going to go back into room A. And this just went too far by one layer. Going to validate that here as well. Yep, everything else is still within the 20 by 20. So then we also need to move this over, which means we need to move the spawn tiles over. And then we just need to move... I'm going to delete this bush, and I think I can just move all these props in, and we should be fine. This as well. So it'll be a little bit more of a tight exit than I originally wanted, but I don't know. I could, I guess, modify this slightly. No, we're leaving it. We're leaving it. We just had that big chat. We're just going to fix it so that it's still within the 20 by 20 grid. And again, I just want to call out, if we hit play here, really all this is doing is making it so that like the UI and stuff is never going to get like over top of the play space. So by going one tile further down here, we were essentially going not under the world, but like getting pretty close to the edge of the screen. Whereas doing it this way, we're keeping at least a little bit of a clearance zone so that we're never having a tile go beyond the space of our screen. I don't mind trees and props going up and above potentially, and even having props going down might be okay. But I know that the 20 by 20 grid is a safe space, so I just want to work within it. Okay, so we also want to modify these transition tiles so that they go to room B now. This one and this one. The entrances remain the same, so that's good. Infinite retries, dungeon, forest, room B. Okay, all right. And then I don't know what this looks like in the end, but we're just going to pull this in. So I think my idea for this space is again, I'm concerned about a lot of linearity within these rooms. So I think I want to have us exit somewhere over here. Nope, not like that. And then I think I want to... Okay. I think I want to keep this over here. But I don't want to repeat the same loop twice in a row. We'll probably end up with such a small grid repeating ourselves occasionally. But we definitely don't want to go back to back on repeats. So we're going to bring this over to be more central. And then I think we're actually going to like delete this entire cube. So we're going to come in here. We're going to be able to work our way down into this space. I'm going to leave this here as like a little space that maybe has an enemy. And again, this idea of maybe some sort of treasure or something valuable here that we might want to duck in and fight that enemy for. And then we're going to then split from the T after going either this way. We can go over here. Sure. Seems good. These don't need to be here. We can turn off this entrance. We probably want to turn on north. Sorry, east. Oh, they're the same thing. I'm going to need to go digging for a second. Why are they the same? Oh, is that because I dragged this over before realizing there was already east a moment ago? I think I did. I think this is supposed to be here. Yeah, that's even the right orientation. Spawn, spawn, transition, transition. Yeah, okay, so this is supposed to be here. So this will be a north exit. Enemy spawn. We could have some sort of loot here. What are we doing with this middle part here? What is this doing? This is going to be too narrow of a passage currently. I think probably the easiest thing to do is going to be go here like that and connect it that way. I think I'm also going to grab... Oh, I can't bring this one over. I can. Just means this one has to come in and then come down. Okay. Again, this geometry doesn't matter. It's literally just tooling so that we can kind of get stuff up and running. Cool. And I think that's the broad shape I'm looking for on this one. I'll go here. I think I want to move this down a little bit just so it's in the bottom corner. And then we're going to just double check again. Something I should have done on the last one is make sure that the water is in the... We're not exceeding it. Ah, okay. So I do also, another kind of design constraint, not required, but I like doing it. I want to make sure these are always on the edge of the water. So the level remains within the 20 by 20, but I allow these 2 exit tiles, or these 4, I guess, exit tiles to be beyond the scope of the 20 by 20 grid. Again, but it's the only thing that should be going beyond. So we need to do that, and then we need to shift these over again. Starting to feel the repetitiveness of this one. Let's change it up again. I don't think we've played this one this evening. There we go. Molten Gate. Twitch is showing me a bunch of like things that I could be doing. Cool. Plus program goals. What is that? Sorry, just I don't know. Twitch is saying words at me. All right. So where were we? We're gonna do. Let's pop that back open. Make sure that's good. This is now all right, and now we kind of just gotta fill in the props. This should be transitioning to the right tiles or to the right parts of the world. This enemy's fine here. If this is the throughway here, this will be 1, 2, 3. Then if I place this enemy here, I believe when we enter, they will both move in and end up coming together, which is a neat design. Then if you have any AoE attacks, they'll be more effective in this particular room. I want to build towards that stuff eventually. Where are our big trees, which are just called tree, I think. We want to put some big trees on this side of the map. So we'll start with that as a base idea. So we're going to do a tree here. We're going to do a tree here. And maybe we'll do another tree next to that one. And then we will do a big tree on this side. And another big tree here. These ones they take up so much space because they're so large. But they really sell, I feel like, we're in a forest experience. We can also do some on this section because that will be overlapping with non-playable space. We can go here, and we can go here. Okay, so I like those trees. Maybe what would be easier to understand would be just to, like, grab... I'm starting to wonder if I want, like, a palette or something, like some sort of way of, like, easily generating these game objects. Like, even just a hotkey to be, like, hotkey and then click. So we've got bush, we've got the rock number 2, we've got trees. I'm just going to clean a lot of this up so I can better see. We have a moss log already. We have a flower, we'll move that up there and we'll keep that for copying. This is a log. Again, poorly named, but that's fine. We're missing a 50 size tree, which is the one with all the branches. That can come up here. Little rocks. This guy can come up here. I'm just going to spread these out a little bit so I can read them more easily when I want to grab and copy them. This can go, this can go, this can go, this can go. Gone, gone, gone. Just going to shuffle a couple of these ones down here. Okay. Try that. Well, let's grab a tree 50. We're going to put one here. Oh, maybe I actually want to put that outward. Let's grab another rock. I'm going to place this here. Like, I'm just trying to mentally visualize what all of this is going to feel like. Not exactly hard, but also not exactly always easy. Alright. I like the idea of at least trying to fit a flower in. Because the flower has the requirement that it has to have things on either side, I feel like it's going to be somewhat forcing where I can place it right now. So maybe starting with like some flower placements is a good idea. this is going to work. Actually, not sure if this is going to work either. This can't be a big tree now. Bring this bush over. Okay. I want to change this up a little bit so it's not the same. Just reordering things a little bit. All right, cool. So that's the bottom section. Let's move up here. What else we got? We can do... I think we lost regular log at some point. I may have deleted it. We're going to just throw this here. See if we can give regular log some time to shine by bringing it forefront. Thank you for the cookie, Drixie. I appreciate that. It's a good reminder that I should actually stop and eat at some point. But we're going to finish this room, because I'm kind of curious to see how long it takes when I look back at the footage. It's also possible that it would make more sense to do some of this type of like layout not inside of Unity, but in like some sort of tile editing software, because it's really just tile data. So like some sort of tile editing program might be just easier in a lot of ways to like make sure that we're aligning everything correctly, that everything's good. Can a flower go here if we have a tree next to it? I'm not sure. Don't know how that's going to be. Okay, we're getting close to being done, and then we get to take a look. And then once everything's at least penciled in a little bit, we can get a better idea of what we're liking and what we're not liking. I kind of want to break this up a little bit so it's not just a straight line. So we're going to put a flower in here, and then maybe we try putting this rock here. I think that's the one that looks a little better solo. And we need one more object here. We've got a couple of bushes. Maybe we're looking for a log. And by log, I mean stump. Oh, wait, there's a stump right there. Maybe we just shuffle them. So we'll do that. Okay. Create empty parent. And save this for later. Okay, any sitting outside the world? I don't see it. I'm going to hit save. That should send it all to the template. I'm also going to turn off the enemies just for the sake of testing. I think that's going to be another map. And if we wanted to ignore the perfectionism, we could just move on from here. I actually really like how many flowers there are. My eye was immediately like, oh man, look at all the colors. I like the placement of the trees. I think we're a little too aggressive with the branched trees. I think there's too many of those. I think we need another like small tree variant. It is a little too much green still in spots. I think that's partly because of the amount of large trees we have. Yeah, Drixie, I think it's tiny trees, but I think it's also like, I don't know, that maybe we need like sticks or something, like just like less branches. No, that's not gonna look right either. I don't know. I'm not sure. Really not sure. Add the mushrooms. Don't think it's any of the Goddess Realm pillars. Could add some of the white flower bunches. That's one we haven't done yet. It's just a bunch of folders called bush with nothing in them. Folder structure needs to be fixed. Alright, I actually don't hate this as a first pass. I just don't like some of the branchy trees. I think this guy needs to be replaced. There's also a missing prop there. I guess we'll try moving them there, and then this one we'll replace with just the bush asset is like an easy kind of like almost throwaway. This rock here... No, this rock didn't look good here, so we're going to drag that one down to use in this spot. And then I think we could also do another moss log here. Oh, you guys are both right. Both unlockable characters in Drixie make the good point that in the last room I did take a moment to kind of color in. Yeah. I think walkable, like walk through dark grass or something could be interesting. I still haven't quite figured out how to handle that with the billboards. This looks better. I think this is still busy. These two next to each other I don't like. This is a little weird. I don't think I love this either. What if we replace... What if we swap this tiny tree for this big tree? I want to not have these two next to each other, so I think we delete this one and replace it with... Oh, which asset? Which asset? This rock looks good on the left by itself, so we can add a rock here. I think that might be okay. This log is getting completely lost. Let's see if we do this, if that helps. We're also going to try bringing this tree down. We're going to break up some of the bushes, because there was a lot of bushes in a row. We're going to bring this rock up. And we're going to bring this one in. Okay. And then I didn't love this one here. We're going to also kind of just do a little swap here. We're going to grab this one, bring it... Oh, there's already one here. Okay, we'll bring this one up. We're going to delete this one. We're going to add this here. And then I'm going to... yeah, what we're going to do here is we're going to grab this, paste this, bring it... Oh, why does that look weird? Why is that adding collision? That has not happened before. That might be... Is that my first time copying a cube? That might be just to do with the setup on this particular desktop. Okay. This one's all the way over here. That's fine. We can fix this real quick. Perfect. And then we're going to put back our happy face. What are you guys chatting about? Make a very tall sprite grass at the top and put the bottom off the map. No collision while still showing up in the front of the character. Oh yeah, that's neat. My issue though is I do want every prop to sit on a tile. I don't know. I think there's still something to maybe doing a couple of billboards all on one tile that are all really small. All right. This is starting to feel like we're almost moving into more of a like less forested area here because there's so few trees on the bottom now. Interestingly, I wanted this to feel like a T, where this was like a fully like, oh, you go left section, which I was feeling here. But when I'm playing it, it feels like it's not really much of a... It's really not much of a divergence. I feel like I actually need to move this whole corridor over a little bit more so that I come down in the middle a little bit more. So that it actually feels like I step left. Drixie says, I feel like it's too structured. Hard to put the words, but having the map fully bordered with a single layer of objects feels unnatural. If you have areas that are 2 or 3 sprites deep, maybe more texture and interest. Yeah. I mean, that's fair. This is an entire edge of props, and there's no separation here. And I want to keep that 20 by 20 edge that I've talked about a couple of times, but maybe I can have like a exception to that rule, which is like, oh, I can go outside the bounds of the world, but never for playable space, if that makes sense. So that the player can never walk behind UI, but we can set up additional tiles a couple deep so that like there's actually something going on beyond just that one layer. Oh, I could see that. I could see that making sense. Yeah. Yeah, that could make a lot of sense. Oh, we got overlapping music, my bad. Can I make the bottom tile look bigger on one side? I'm not sure what you mean by that. Like, just make it longer? In theory, yes. That? Yeah, we'd have to. So right now, every tile is the same tile, and only the top of the tile is modified based off of the entire floor texture that we generate. But the edges are always the exact same texture. So we would need to have some way of denoting that this edge tile has a different texture, basically. I'm not entirely sure. I'm not entirely sure. I think it's definitely worth exploring, though. Like, it's definitely I think I don't know how to put it. It's not. I don't want to say good idea, but it's definitely worth looking into further. Why'd this break? I'm sorry. What? Sorry. Why did you not work? This should be going into A, into East Entrance. This should be going into A, East Entrance. Sorry, I'm going to fix that real quick, and then we'll think more. These are both East. Shouldn't matter if it's added to the library or to the build. We'll do it anyways, just in case. Okay. I'm not sure why that didn't work the first time. Maybe it was the needing to be added to the build editor. Okay. The generating collision must be part of... I think I can just do that. That must be something to do with the settings in this setup. Okay, we're going to do that. We're going to just change things up to kind of break up the border a little bit. And then I am going to also bring this over a bit more, I think. So I'll bring this over one. Bring this up one. Let's bring all of these over a little bit to here. And then let's bring these in. Like so. Yeah, that's fine. We'll leave that. Okay. More chat. Sorry, I was confused for a second, Drixie. You're talking about redoing the art for the subscribers. I mean, that's fair. Technically, that art was built 2.5 years ago compared to a lot of the other stuff, and I even more so. I think I did a lot of the pixel art for the emotes and the Twitch stuff. So I don't even think that has your name on it. To be fair. All right, let's give this a try. I just want to feel more like we're going to the left. So I'm just going to shift things. Well, that didn't work. guess I can do this now, actually, because of the way I shifted other objects. Tetris continues. I said at the top of the stream here, I'm not sure how many people we even still have around. I know we peaked at some point. But I said at the top of the stream, been busy year. Been a lot going on. Moved, but the other big thing in the past, it's not even a year. It's been what I say at the beginning. It's been 2 years since we streamed something. In the past 2 years, we moved, and also me and Trixie got married. So I suppose Miss Tolhe now, maybe, I don't know. But when she says jokes like more reason for me to make them excellent, excellent, just the first thing that comes to my mind is that's my wife. All right. This feels better. Don't necessarily love the way the stones worked out here when everything got shifted, but I think this is a little bit better. Again, it's still not quite feeling like we're coming all the way to the left. I think that might be to do with some of this bunching up of props. So I do want to modify this part. Honestly, maybe that helps in a lot of ways. Because now we have to pull this rock over. And then we can do... I think this tree is also part of the problem. It's like hiding how much space is here visually. We're going to just... I feel like bush is like my very easy like throw out. No, still not good. I feel like the bush is just like the easiest one to be like, yeah, it looks fine. And it doesn't, but it's just the easiest one to like fit in anywhere, I think. Still doesn't feel like an offshoot. In order to make this feel like an offshoot, do I actually need to go all the way to the right? Also, I don't know what you guys are talking about. The worst. A lot of you. All right. If I want this to feel like a full on, I have to sidetrack slightly within one room. I do feel like I need to actually go all the way here and then come back. So I do almost want to like extend this all the way over here. Oh, that's unfortunate. Let's see. How can we do that without completely derailing everything? Probably this. Then we grab these props here. Drag them back over. And then I suppose we kind of have to... Oh, I guess the easiest one is to grab this. Bring this up here. Like that. It's a little square. I'd prefer to have it have more additional kind of geometry. Let's try something like that, I think. This is a bit of a break the bones kind of situation, but let's see what we can do. I'm going to grab all of these pieces. If I can click them all, we're just going to shift all that over. We're going to put the log here, the rock here. Okay, that's good. Then we can grab this tree, put that there, put this here, and throw that up there, going out into the abyss. This can go here. This can go here. Rock. should be all right here to have some little rocks. I kind of like the little rocks more if they're always in front of something rather than in behind. You can do... I don't think I want another big tree. Log in behind is probably good. And then we'll round this edge out with 3 bushes. Do you need to extend if the map doesn't all spawn at once? Yeah, you're right. It's potentially better, but I think it's more... Fine, I'll split the difference a little bit. Oh, maybe I can't actually. The fact that generating a new cube is kind of breaking for me right now is modifying things quite a bit. I still want to try this. I still want to make it more of an offshoot. I want to make it more of a, I have to go all the way to the left to find a dead end. Because it's, okay, how do I put this? It's like an inverse shortcut. I'm going to put the music on the background while I explain this. So I want to have it so that each time, yeah, sorry, I didn't see your comment until or too late, but I also want to kind of just still go through it. So each time you do a run, you'll reveal the map on that run. And when you run out of time and you go back to the Goddess Realm and you have to start a new run, you'll see all of the tiles you've already revealed on that next run. And so by having a section where you have to go all the way to the left, even if it is just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10-ish tiles to go all the way to the left, that's 10 there, 10 back, that's 20. That's 20 turns, and I only give you 120 right now, and you'll be able to get more time through progressing through the skill tree. But it's on the scale of things, 20 is actually a fairly large amount of investment. And so by having it so that it's a pretty big offshoot in this map, but in future runs, I get to go directly to the exit instead of having to go all the way over there, that will feel, I think, at least here's the pitch, that it'll feel more like I've shortcutted. I don't know, maybe the player won't feel that, but it will be something that it'll be like, oh, I don't have to go over there again. And I'm interested in it, kind of play testing that and seeing how that reads. Okay, rant over. That's fine. I want to be clear though, you're not wrong that I wasn't thinking about the fact that it will fill in little bit by little bit, but I still think I want it more extreme regardless. This might be a good spot for little rocks. Did I delete all the little rocks? Where are the rock 8s? Why am I not seeing them? Am I blind? There's one. Had to look in the editor. I wanted that there, is what I was thinking. Okay, I need to fill this in. Where's a stump? This one. Try that there, and then I think we can get away with another one of these. In fact, let's also put one here. One thing that I'm thinking about also while moving through this is how repetitive are these spaces going to feel? Like, does this room feel that different from this room? Shape-wise, yes. I wonder if we need more landmarks. Like, Something that a player can look at and go, oh, it's this room. Got it. This feels better. There's aspects of it I still don't like. It's hard to read where I'm standing here, but not the biggest deal. These tiny rocks didn't end up working. I think this needs to be a log. I'm going to make that change real quick. Let's do regular log. Regular log? Mossy log, mossy log. Oh my goodness, it was right there. Okay, this is why a palette is probably going to be better in the long run, if I can figure out how to build one. I think live editing would also be huge too. Being able to like live edit all of these objects in the scene and kind of place them while visually seeing them. Right. This needed to be a bush for this flower to look okay. But I needed this to be a log instead of a bush in order for the rocks to be visible. Okay, so this needs to not be this. And instead we'll do a tree trunk. A stump. Yeah, I feel like landmarks might be required. We might have to have some sort of like identifiable, like, oh, it's this room with this thing. This is something we haven't seen a lot of. Like a small tree behind a large tree. I actually kind of like the way that that feels hidden. Have not done that enough, apparently. I like the way this feels like a clearing now. This still doesn't feel very big, though. But I still feel like it's still a bit more of a offshoot, which is good. Still a lot of sections of bush, and we did end up with a lot of like repetitive rocks. A couple of rocks with weird edges also. This one, and this one looked bad. In fact, these two don't even have to be there. So I think I can just do... just regular log? Mossy log next to regular log? I don't hate it. Again, we're being a bit particular and a bit of a perfectionist. If we like this tree behind, then I can also shift this. Like this. Curious how that looks. Still not perfect. But probably reasonable for first pass prototyping. Very diagonal. A lot of like left, right to get in through this area here. And then let's see, we won't have that enemy placement that we originally set up because we moved the entrance into here. But we can still have an enemy at the end of this hallway, or maybe even just, well, maybe at the end, guarding whatever the chest is. And then one here near the exit. Like maybe even right there. I haven't really placed any right X next to like the spawn tile. I guess that's weird if we're coming in from the other side. But I don't mind that. By the time I get down to them, do they converge? Or because I move 3 spaces at a time, I still get to engage first? Yeah, I still get to engage first. That's interesting too, actually. I hadn't really thought too much about that. This rock and this rock don't look good. Yeah, the other one didn't even get to me in time. Okay. So if I want them to get to me, I think I just need to bring them in closer. If I want them to attack at the same time. This will still not be exactly at the same time, but we'll give this a shot. It's also possible I might want to have different enemy types in this type of situation too, like maybe a wolf enemy that moves faster. Then I could have the bat closer. Although I think this ended up working out. I'm going to end up with like not attacking both at the same time. Oh, he's still 2 tiles away though because of the diagonals. So I'll end up taking one out. Still solo. Okay. So yeah, we need different enemy types with different abilities in order to actually kind of create pressure from multiple enemies at the same time. Overlapping music again. All right, it's fine. I didn't like this rock and I didn't like this rock. So this one can go. I'm going to replace it with tiny rocks. Seems like fun. Here. And then this one can go. And maybe we just do another one of these trees for now. Cool. So yeah, we need to work on combat. We need to work on AI. I'm realizing that as well. But in terms of spaces to explore, I think that's all right. Let's give this one a shot. I don't think we've done a single run yet with the actual revealing part. So let's see how that's feeling. And then, yeah, it's definitely time for food, I think. But I feel pretty good about the stream. I got kind of a fill-in on life a little bit, but mostly kind of just talking about, for the first half an hour, all the stuff we've been working on with, like, game dev stuff. Oh, that's interesting. Also, with the flowers, they will need to be fixed regardless, because there will be moments where they're revealed before the object that blocks them is shown. Okay, so we will need to fix the edges, but for now this still works. This is a very long room. We ended up with 136, so it took a third of our 120 starting time to be able to clear this room of 2 enemies and fully explore, I think, every tile. We may have missed some tiles, but close to it. Interesting. I like these. These feel good. I like the placement of some of these trees in behind. I think they're kind of falling back a bit, and that's nice. I'm liking that. The big trees are also still kind of creating this forest, but it does feel like we're getting close to a clearing with how empty this bottom section is. I don't know. I like it. So that's another... It's another one down. I don't know. What are we doing? This one? That's a bit ominous. This is cheerful. Where'd this go? Okay, so we've done room B. So I've built 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rooms. It takes me about an hour to build a room. And we need to make 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, maybe 10. I don't know how I feel about this one, actually. I feel like having a full offshoot room that's completely a dead end might feel bad. I guess it depends on how large it is. Maybe we don't even use the whole space. 10 more rooms. We've done 5. 15 feels like probably good enough for like an early prototype to kind of do a demo with. This will likely be enough for me to play with, and then do different enemy types, different types of AI. The spaces will allow me to kind of play with like rewards. So like in B, we created the structure of like a space that we'd want to have some sort of valuable at the end of this corridor. Okay. I think we're still on track. So if we go back to the beginning here and we take one more run through for the end of the stream, we can see that we kind of got the core gameplay of starting on the title screen, starting a new game, getting a little bit of narrative in the form of the goddess realm and being like isekai'd into this world, starting a new life, being summoned here by the goddess. We're going to skip through this, and then we're going to like, you know, lower down to the fantasy world where we get lightning zapped into reality next to a goddess statue, and then we just have to explore. And then we have several different rooms to move our way through. We'll have 15 or so before we reach the first checkpoint, which will allow us to start new runs at that new location, which might be too much, or we might need to increase the amount of starting time that we have. I'm going to see if I can beeline it for the areas we just developed. I think I need to make killing enemies more valuable too. I think because I gave the character 3 points of movement, which was an attempt to make it so that we could build the combo system, is why I gave the character 3 points. It means that it's very easy for us to outrun enemies as well. Yeah, so we do a run, we gain experience for all the tiles we reveal. We come back here. The next thing I need to do is I need to get the skill screen actually opening so we can spend skill points to get additional time, get additional stats. All our damage numbers right now are 1, 3, and 5 for our different abilities. I also want to change that to be actual damage variance, so like you're doing like 15, 30, and like have your strength and other stat values modify that so you can get stronger and kill enemies more quickly. But the main thing is getting the skill screen up and running, and once the skill screen is functional and can affect gameplay via increasing stats or, you know, giving you more time, or even unlocking new abilities might allow you to deal with enemies or progress more quickly, I think that'll kind of concrete kind of the loop, and then we can start to see where a little bit more of the fun is going to be. I think at its core there's something here. It's still just being worked through and trying to figure out, I don't know, what are we trying to achieve. I think there's still definitely problems with like this design space of like replaying through an area you've already experienced. I think there's going to be issues, but I think it's an interesting design constraint that I haven't seen a lot of other folks doing. And I'm enjoying kind of solving it, is honestly the biggest thing. I'm having a lot of fun trying to figure out how to make this particular set of design parameters work together. Anyways, I think that's where we're at. I don't know if anyone's still around. Looks like a couple of folks are still lurking. But we're gonna call it here. I don't know when the next stream will be. Probably try and do something again next weekend, but definitely coming up in December, I'm gonna have some time off, and we'll definitely do a lot more streams as we work towards trying to get a demo that people can actually get on we can get in people's hands so that we can get real players to give real feedback, because right now it's all theory crafting, but working towards a demo for hopefully completed by end of December. But for now though, this is going to be Tolhi signing out. Later folks.